Alrighty. Good morning, everyone. My name is Madison Lloyd. I am a certifications and outreach specialist here with the Minority Business Assistance Center. Today, we have a wonderful presentation put together by the Department of Taxation with four wonderful presenters, Geraldine Ross, Lindsay Meadows, Morgan Demokos, and Shannon Gifford. Please make a habit to put any questions you might have in the Q&A section. We will get to your questions. And without further ado, I will allow them to get started on navigating Ohio tax requirements, sales and use tax.
Thank you so much. My name is Shannon Gifford, and I'm going to start us out with just reviewing the Ohio sales and use tax requirements. Just a quick disclaimer that the information we are providing is for general purposes only. Oops. Legislative changes, facts, circumstances may change the validity of the information. So if you have any specific questions, please do not hesitate to reach out to us. During the first portion of this presentation, we're going to review some general sales and use tax information, sales of tangible personal property and taxable sales and services, exemptions and exceptions, vendor's licenses, applications and fees, filing frequencies, due dates, and filing requirements, and Ohio Business Gateway and eServices. After the sales and use tax portion, Geraldine will discuss Ohio Employer Withholding tax. Sales tax was enacted in Ohio January 1st, 1935. It can be found in the Ohio Revised Code, section 5739. Sales tax is a trust tax. So what that means is the tax is paid by the consumer and then remitted to the state by the vendor. Use tax was enacted a year later and can be found in section 5741. Use tax is due when sales tax was due but not collected by the vendor. The consumer then would remit an equal amount of use tax to the state. This creates a level playing field for both in-state and out-of-state vendors. And it should be noted, all states that have a sales tax also have a use tax. Just a few sales tax examples I'm sure we're all familiar with. First is purchasing an item, say clothing from a local store. When you purchase it, you will pay the sales tax to the vendor, who then remits it to the state. Similarly, you pay sales tax when you purchase something online. That vendor will then remit it to the state. A use tax example would be, let's say you purchase supplies online, let's say office supplies, and you did not pay sales tax on it. You would then remit that same amount of sales tax in the form of use tax on your consumer's use account. Now, the consumer's use account is needed if you have recurring use tax to remit. If it is just a one-time occurrence, you may use the voluntary use tax payment coupon, which is available at tax.ohio.gov, or you may also report it on your Ohio personal income tax return. For the remainder of the sales and use tax portion, we will focus on sales tax. However, if you have specific use tax questions, we are always here to answer any questions you may have. So, what is taxable? First is sales of tangible personal property, or TPP. What is TPP? It is personal property that can be seen, weighed, measured, felt, touched, or in any other manner perceptible to the senses. This does include motor vehicles, electricity, gas, steam, and pre-written computer software. Certain services are also taxable in the state of Ohio. Should be noted that all sales of TPP are subject to the tax unless there is a specific exemption. So one specific exemption would be food. Please note, food does not include alcoholic beverages, dietary supplements, soft drinks, or tobacco. In summary, food is a substance that is consumed for nutritional value or taste by humans and can come in a variety of forms. Food consumed on the premises or dine-in is subject to that sales tax, however. And just a brief overview of some services that are taxable according to the Ohio Revised Code. Repair a TPP, installation of TPP into TPP, washing a motor vehicle, laundry, private investigation, exterminating, landscaping and lawn care, building maintenance and janitorial services, snow removal by mechanized means. The last three are all subject to a $5,000 sales provision, which we will explain in a little bit. Some additional services that are taxable is towing a wrecked, disabled, or illegally parked motor vehicle, rental of hotel rooms for less than 30 days, production of TPP from supplied material, physical fitness facility service, recreation and sports club service, personal care service, and transportation of persons within Ohio. And here are some examples of services that are not taxable. A service provided by or on the order of a licensed physician, certified nurse midwife, a nurse practitioner or chiropractor, those would all be taxable, or I'm sorry, non-taxable. The cutting, coloring of styling of individuals' hair, professional services such as consulting, accounting, legal services, and photography, as long as TPP is not provided, all of these are not taxable. So just to give you a few examples of how to apply the sales tax in various industries. So first, salons. Again, as I mentioned, the cutting, coloring, and styling of an individual's hair is non-taxable. However, selling shampoo, conditioner, styling products to the customer are all taxable, and tax should be collected by the vendor. Facials, hair removal, massage, and manicures, pedicures are taxable. Those are seen as those personal care services. Landscaping, janitorial services, and snow removal, these are the ones that are subject to that $5,000 sales threshold. What this means is in a calendar year, the first $5,000 is not taxable. However, once you reach that, from that moment till the end of the business, you must collect and remit that sales tax. The threshold does not reset every year. A few more examples. Some your contracting industries. So HVAC, plumber, electrician, general contractors, they typically pay sales tax on the supplies or items they purchase. If those items are incorporated into real property, then that installation is not taxable. A few examples: plumber purchases supplies and pays sales tax on those supplies for a total of $381.70. They can absolutely recoup that sales tax when they invoice their client. They would invoice it as supplies for that total amount, the $381.70. It would be incorrect to separate the tax out, saying the supplies is one amount and tax is another. Similarly, HVAC pays sales tax on supplies, but does not charge sales tax on the installation into real property. For instance, let's say you need a new furnace in your house. The HVAC technician would purchase that furnace, pay sales tax on it. Then when they install it, that is into real property and is not taxable. I would like to mention that cleaning ducts is building maintenance and is subject to the sales tax. So now we've reviewed some things that are and are not taxable. Let's go over some exemptions and exceptions. In the Ohio Revised Code, most are found in 5739.02B. There are over 100 exemptions and one exception, which is resale. The taxpayer must establish they are entitled to the exception or exemption. Some examples of exemptions would be sales to churches, 501c3s, nonprofit charitable organizations, as well as government entities. Sales to persons engaged in farming, and the TPP is used primarily in the production of TPP for sale, so items used in direct farming. Certain sales to persons engaged in highway transportation for hire, and materials incorporated into TPP to be produced for sale by manufacturing. So how do you know that a customer is exempt? Well, they will submit to you an exemption certificate. So you do need to obtain this within 90 days of the date of the sale. The reason you want to do this is because if for whatever reason the department needs to see some records, if we see a sale is exempt and you produce this certificate that's completely filled out, then you're relieved of any liability of that sales tax. If we have additional questions, then we will contact whomever filled out this sales tax exemption. However, I don't want anyone to worry. For whatever reason, on the off chance you are audited, we do give you an additional 120 days to obtain that exemption certificate. So there is plenty of time to get that. How do you know it's fully completed? Well, there are a few things that do need to be completed. First, the reason for the claimed exemption, purchaser's name, type of business or organization, address, signature of the purchaser if it is a hard copy, and a tax identification number if applicable. There are instances in which a consumer will not have a vendor's license or tax identification number. For instance, let's say a farmer typically does not have a vendor's license, so they would leave that blank. So now we know what is taxable, what is exempt. Let's go on to licensing, registration, and filing. So, do you need to register for a vendor's license? In short, if you're making taxable sales, you will need a vendor's license. Casual sales, though, do not. So a casual sale is when an item was obtained by a person for their own personal use, and then they sold it. The individual is not in the business of selling these items. It's very infrequent. A great example of this is a yard sale. You might have a yard sale once a year. You're not having one every weekend. You're not in the business of having yard sales. It may be a one-time or once a year thing. Those are casual sales. I do want to mention is sales through a marketplace facilitator, because these are becoming much more common. What a marketplace facilitator is an entity that owns or operates a marketplace and facilitates the sales on that marketplace. Some great examples of this is going to be Amazon, eBay, Etsy. For these, that platform will sell those items and they collect and remit sales tax on the behalf of the seller. So if your sales are only through a marketplace facilitator, a vendor's license is not needed. However, if you are selling through a marketplace facilitator and also making sales somehow directly to a consumer, then you would need that vendor's license. An example of this, let's say I make jewelry and I sell it only on Etsy. I do not need a vendor's license. However, if I sell it on Etsy, as well as I have a storefront, then I would need a vendor's license to report those sales that I made at the storefront. For businesses located in Ohio, there are two different kinds of licenses. First is a county vendor's license, and this is for a person or business with a fixed place which taxable sales are made. Vendors must have one license for each fixed place of business. So if you have two locations, you have two vendor's licenses. The license is issued by the county auditor and the Department of Taxation via the Ohio Business Gateway. There's also a transient vendor's license, and that is a retailer who transports goods to temporary places of business to make sales. Some great examples of this is going to be flea markets, fairs, festivals. You are not selling from one area, you are going from different places across the state to make these sales. That license is issued by the Department of Taxation and is valid throughout the state. So to register for a vendor's license, the quickest and easiest way is through online on the Ohio Business Gateway at gateway.ohio.gov. You can also do it in person at the county auditor's office or by mail. Our paper applications are available on our website. Please note that paper applications can take 6 to 8 weeks. Again, the quickest way is going to be online through the gateway. There is a $50 application fee for each vendor's license, regardless of whether it's county or transient. Once you do register for that vendor's license, there is a requirement to file. Accounts are either set up either monthly or semi-annual periods. The returns are due on the 23rd day of the month following the reporting period. So, for example, if you are a monthly filer, all your sales for November, that return is due on December 23rd. If you are semi-annual, sales from January 1st through June 30th are due on July 23rd. Sales from July 1st through December 31st is due on January 23rd. If the return and payment are made timely, you do get a discount, and that's 0.75% of the tax liability. And it is capped after January 1st of 2026 to $750. If no sales are made, a return must still be filed. What happens if you don't file and pay timely? So first, we will, if you don't, after the deadline passes, no discount will be allowed. Interest will start to accrue the day after the deadline. And if it does move to an assessment, which I'll discuss in a little bit, then there are possible penalties. The process typically If once the deadline passes, if we either do not have a return on file or a payment, we will notify you either through a web message, through our eServices. It can be an email. It can even be through the U.S. Postal Service. But we'll say that we don't have a return on file or we don't have a payment on file. If we don't receive that return or payment, that moves to an assessment. And what an assessment is, it is a legal bill that comes with appeal rights. So from the day of the assessment, you have 60 days to appeal it. And we always recommend, if it is something that you need to file the return, file the return. We're always welcome to talk you through it. If you call us, we'll tell you exactly how to progress. Now, if the assessment is not rectified or an appeal is not made within those 60 days, then whatever amount is due can become certified for collection with the Ohio Attorney General's office. I do like to add, once this happens, there are additional fees and interest that the Attorney General does charge. And if you do receive a penalty, you can always request penalty abatement on eServices through the Ohio Business Gateway, in which I will turn it over to Lindsay Meadows, who will now discuss Ohio Business Gateway and eServices.
Janet, like she said, my name is Lindsay Meadows, and I'm going to be discussing the Ohio Business Gateway and also our eServices platform. So the very first thing you need to do as a user for our systems is register for an OHID. An OHID is going to be a universal sign-in credential for any of the Ohio-based platforms that you might use for different agencies across the state. So taxation is one of the agencies that utilizes the Ohio ID, and this is going to be your personal login used. Every user must have their own ID to access the gateway. And please do not share your OHID or username or password with anyone. If you have previous experience working in the gateway prior to December of 2024, you may have been able to utilize a single username password combination that was shared amongst your agency or business with a variety of users, which was never really recommended, but it was a little bit easier for that to happen. And what we are recommending now is that the new registrants absolutely need to have their own personal OHID, as like the previous bullet, the very first bullet point states, it's used to access many Ohio government services, some of which can be your personal information included in that. So we ask that everyone have their own individual. You will use your OHID login to access the Ohio Business Gateway at gateway.ohio.gov. Once you are able to sign into the gateway, you have the opportunity to see the highlighted area below where it says OH Tax eServices with the red box around it. That's going to be your Ohio Department of Taxation application here. And what that does is it's going to redirect you to our new portal of eServices. And that has been an update as of December 6th of 2024. From the dashboard, you can just select the eServices transaction. It will take you straight there. And this would be one of the places that you can apply for a vendor's license, like Shannon mentioned. This is by far the easiest and fastest method of doing that. And you would just navigate to the Additional Services tab from the dashboard and select the link for Register a New Business Tax Account. From there, you can opt to register for a county vendor's license, a transient vendor's license, the out-of-state seller's account for non-Ohio businesses, and then the consumer use tax account, which Shannon mentioned at the beginning of her presentation about use tax filers. The withholding unit, which Jerry is going to discuss after my portion, is also available in our eServices platform. In order to apply for the vendor's license, it's a very nice wizard type platform. Page by page, you just fill in the necessary information and opt to go to the next page. Right here, you're going to see that you can select when did you or when will you begin providing taxable sales in the state of Ohio. And that's a flexible date depending on when your transactions began. And if you expect to collect more than $200 of sales tax per month. When making that selection, that makes the distinction to the department whether or not you'll end up becoming a semi-annual filer or a monthly filer. The number of steps to complete the registration depends on the type of license that you choose, but the county and transient vendors licenses all do have a $50 registration fee. After entering the needed information, you will be asked to make a payment. And as you see here, this is an example of the payment screen. You can add a routing number, account number, and confirm. You may also add credit cards, the bank account type, and you have the opportunity to save that method for future use or not. Once you are registered for an account, this panel is going to show up on your summary tab of your dashboard, which is your default screen. And this is going to offer you the most current information that's applicable to your tax account. And right here, you're going to see the red arrows highlight where you are going to be able to file now for the current tax period that's due. And then below that, you're going to see the option to view returns and period balances. This is a very robust system, and you have lots of different options to explore. But for filing a return, you're simply going to click the File Now link, and that's going to navigate you to a Getting Started page. This is going to provide you a list of Ohio locations associated with your business, and it will all be filed on the UST1 return. So what that does mean is you might have multiple business locations with a variety of different vendors' licenses. However, that will create one UST account that covers all of those licenses, and that means you can file them all on one return. This page is quite important as this is the county information, and this is going to include the county information for where you are making taxable sales. To add the county, you're going to simply place your cursor in the blank row, and you can either type the county in which you are filing for, or there's a drop down that you can select. I would like to point out that some counties do have a transit location and not just a traditional location, and there might be a different code for that county. So you want to make sure that if you are in Franklin County, for example, there's going to be Franklin County, and then there's going to be Franklin County with a CODA implication there. So you do want to make sure that you include both on your worksheet if that's applicable. This page also feeds into the next page for some figure entry. And if you don't enter any information here, the next page is going to offer an error message to you. So that's one of the more common errors that we experience here for troubleshooting. So just right up front, know that this portion is necessary in order for you to proceed with an effective filing. From here, you're going to input the taxable sales and the tax liability, and you select Next. This next page is what I was telling you feeds off of the previous. And what you'll do is enter the taxable sales, and it also requires the gross sales and the exempt sales. So if you do have a vendor present an exemption certificate and that sale was not taxable, this exempt sales line is exactly where you would be inputting that data. Note the option at the bottom of this page shows that the clerk of courts has a question. Do you directly pay tax to the clerk of courts? Yes or no? This is reserved for motor vehicle dealers and watercraft dealers as well. They pay the sales tax at the title agency directly to the clerk of courts at the time of the transaction. From here, this is your accelerated payment option. Now, this is limited to businesses who collect over $75,000 worth of sales tax in a year. So once upon a time, every return, regardless of the business size, was offered the opportunity to make an accelerated payment. There has been a recent update to our system that does not offer this option for those who are not required to utilize the accelerated payment option. So if you have experience in the gateway and our eServices system up to this point, you will notice that this update has been made this previous month, and that's no longer an option for you. No, the system is not broken. It's just an upgrade. This will be the review of the information that you completed. You're going to, it's required for you to review this before you submit. So once you review all of the information, make sure that it's accurate, you can select Next. And from here, you're offered the opportunity to make a payment. Now, we do have an electronic filing and payment mandate for sales tax in the state of Ohio. So your payment options are an electronic check that you can use to make an ACH payment with a bank account number and the routing number, or you have the option to pay by credit or debit card. We also have the option to pay later. once before the gateway was being utilized, there was an opportunity to print a voucher for making a payment by check. That option is no longer available. However, if you do find it necessary to mail in a paper check, we ask that you select the pay later option and include your account number and filing period in the memo of the check. That way it can be directly applied. However, you are given a confirmation number for your electronic payments, which is a great resource to have for any assistance you might need with a payment question if you call in or contact the department. The electronic check screen is shown here. There is no fee applied with this. However, if you do have a credit card transaction, there's a small processing fee involved. You can see here that this particular taxpayer would have had a bank account saved on file, and then they also have the opportunity to add a different payment channel if they desire. Like I said, the credit and debit card option will have a fee involved. I believe it's a 1.5% fee or $1 minimum. This is actually a fee that goes to a third-party agency that processes the transactions for us. This is not money that goes to the state of Ohio just for tax collection. You'll then be able to confirm the submission, and this is going to be for your payment and the return. You want to review the declaration statement and then select File My Return. The confirmation page comes next, and this will give you the ability to print. If you're not printing, you can just select OK to exit, but I do recommend that you save that confirmation number as that is directly tied to your payment and your filing. And again, if you needed to contact the department with any questions, that's one of the fastest ways for our representatives to locate your information and assist. We do have a variety of resources available at tax.ohio.gov. We have a robust FAQ section that can answer the majority of general taxability questions or process questions. They are categorized by sales and use tax. If you do have employer withholding questions, they have a section as well. We have a section for information releases available to the public on rulings about particular tax questions. Gateway.ohio.gov eServices will take you directly to a login page. And then if you do wish to phone us for assistance, our offices are available Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. And then we also have our ORC and OAC references here that pertain directly to our sales and use tax. And if you need any additional questions, Shannon and I have provided our information below, but our website also offers features now for live chat. We also have the ability for you to schedule a callback by using our bookings option. And if you don't have time to sit and wait for a few minutes on a phone queue, let's say we are busy that day, you do have the opportunity to schedule a callback at a time that works best for you. So I would encourage any of you to reach out with additional questions using a variety of these methods. We're always available and happy to assist. So I would like to introduce Jerry, and she is going to be going over some employer withholding tax information.
Thank you. I appreciate the introduction. I'm going to speak on employer withholding as stated. We're going to go over just a little bit of a disclaimer. The disclaimer is the same as it was for sales tax and use tax, so I'm not going to really go over it in detail. Basically, what we're stating today will be, it might change in the future. So basically, just keep in contact with us when you find out that things may be changing in the future. Right now, we're going to look at the agenda. We're going to go over the basics of employer withholding, electronic filing requirements, how to register, filing frequency and forms, how to file and pay, and contact information. Who is required to withhold? Every employer maintaining an office or transacting business in Ohio that pays compensations to an employee, resident or non-resident. Compensation to employees working out of their homes is subject to withholding. This is considered transacting business in the state of Ohio. Employers are required to withhold school district withholding taxes from any employee who lives in a taxing school district. Exceptions to withholding. Compensation paid paid for services provided in a domestic home, nanny, housekeeper, etc. Withholding is voluntary in these instances, however, should be withheld at the employee's request. Independent contractors, some agriculture labor, see U.S. Code 26, Section 3121, Division G. IT4 employees withholding exemption certificate. Every employee is to submit Form IT4 to employers on or before the start date of employment. So the employer can withhold and remit Ohio income tax from compensation. If applicable, employers will also withhold school district income tax, employer statement of residency in a reciprocity state. Considering the surrounding states are Michigan, Indiana, Kentucky, West Virginia, or Pennsylvania, earning compensation for services provided in Ohio. Also, resident military service member exemptions. A civilian spouse of a military service member, if the service member and spouse have the same state of residency and their state of residency is in another state pursuant to the service member's military records. We do have an electronic filing requirement for the state of Ohio for employer withholding and school district. It is Rule 5703719 and became effective November 13th of 2024. So all employer withholding and school district employer withholding taxpayers must file and pay electronically through OH Tax eServices. How to register. Basically, registration process is similar to what Lindsay went over prior to the employer withholding presentation. Registration is required within 15 days of the date of the withholding liability. And online registration through OH Tax eServices is a 3-step process. First, you're going to navigate to tax.ohio.gov. And if you don't already have a username and password with OHID, like Lindsay went over prior, you have to go ahead and set up one. And you are going to go to tax.ohio.gov, and you're going to go to OHID and OH Tax Self-Help. You're going to click on that little icon there, and then you're going to be navigated to the next icon, OHID and OH Tax Self-Help for businesses. And then you're going to see the 3 icons there for the PDF tutorial. You're going to follow the 3 steps and register for an employer withholding account. A school district account is automatically created. However, not every Ohio resident lives in a taxing school district. Employees should indicate on the IT4, like we stated before, if they reside in a taxing school district, and it can be verified on the link provided at tax.ohio.gov/help-center/the finder. Make sure that you don't click on the hyperlinks on the previous slide to click on the icons. Okay, this is another example of what was stated prior. If you don't already have an OHID account, you have to create one by going to ohid.ohio.gov, and you're going to have to create a 2-step MFA, a multi-factor authentication, and to complete the process. It will not let you do it until you make sure you do the 2-step FFA. You're going to log into the gateway system, gateway.ohio.gov, and sign in with the username and password and request access to the business with the federal ID number without the dash. It only recognizes numbers. Then you're going to navigate to OH Tax eServices and register for the employer withholding account number. We have 3 different filing frequencies for employer withholding. Quarterly, 2,000 or less combined Ohio withholding and school district withholding will be remitted for the tax year. Form IT-501 due on the last day of the month following the close of the quarter. For example, first quarter, January through March, will be due the end of April. Monthly, more than 2,000, but less than 84,000, combined Ohio Employer Withholding and School District for the tax year. You're going to file the IT 501 due within 15 days following the close of each month. And there's the third one, partial weekly filers. They will be filing more than 84,000 combined Ohio Employer Withholding and School District withheld for the tax year. And they have to file by EFT, electronic funds transfer, participation required through the Treasurer of State's office. Payments are due within 3 banking days. There's the website for the Treasurer of State. It's at tos.ohio.gov. And employers filing or remitting payment any period for the payroll. If they're remitting 100,000 or more, excluding school district, must be deposited the next banking day by EFT. School district withholding. They have 2 filing frequencies: quarterly, $2,000 or less combined employer withholding and school district will be remitted for the tax year. Form SD 101 due on the last day of the month following the close of the quarter. Again, January through March will be due at the end of April. Monthly, more than $2,000 combined Ohio Employer Withholding and School District for the tax year. Form SD 101 due within 15 days following the close of each month. The annual forms. We have an IT 941 annual reconciliation of income tax withheld due by January 31st of the next calendar year. Required electronic filing through OH Tax eServices. And for school district, the SD 141 school district employer annual reconciliation of tax withheld is due by January 31st of the next calendar year. This also follows the same billing progression that was discussed earlier in the presentation. And basically, you will be notified by paper that we did not receive your form. Then if that is ignored, then there's penalty and interest. And if that is ignored, it can progress over to collection with the Ohio Attorney General. How to file and pay. The IT 501 for employer withholding, when you go into the OH Tax eServices system, make sure you definitely click on File and Pay Now. That is very important. The same for school district. When you're filing the SD 101, you want to click on File and Pay Now. If you do not click on File and Pay Now and you click on Account, it will show that you're just making a payment, and it will show as a credit on your account until you file the annual end of the year form. This shows you the annual forms that need to be filed. You just click on File Now, and the year should be navigated on the next screen, and you can file the return for the end of the year for regular withholding and for school district if you're required to file for school district. Okay, this is how you can contact us. Our contact information is primarily the same. For the Ohio Department of Taxation, we would be more than happy to assist you with any questions you may have for sales tax, use tax, and employer withholding and school district. And if you have any questions, we can start that at this time.
Yes, and if you all have any questions, you can put them in the question and answer box. Well, if we don't have any questions, that is completely fine. As stated, please feel free to reach out to them if any questions do arise. I want to say a great thank you to you all. You all had an amazing presentation. It was very knowledgeable and insightful. There will be a survey going out via email, and you can view those to get in contact with our offices, as well as a YouTube recording will be put out for this presentation as well if you want to go back and get any additional information, and as well as our next events. So with that, again, I say thank you all and have a wonderful rest of your day.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Of course, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.